This is the Mobile Tech Podcast, brought to you by worldpodcasts.com. Now here's your host, Tech Girl, Miriam Joie.
Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joie, and today is Thursday, August 8th, 2019. I'm in New York City. The Note launched yesterday, Samsung Galaxy Note 10 series, and my guest is Michael Fisher.
Hey, Miriam.
Hi, we're in the same room. It's nice.
We are in the same room.
I love it.
It's exciting. I'm not at all suffering from last night's celebrations.
No, you're not. I planned for that.
tropical.
Give you a bottle of water.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome. So I saw your video on the Note 10. You were lucky enough to get a pre-brief.
Yes?
And I couldn't agree more with everything.
Oh, well, thank you.
I mean,
I'm
look,
sure I
the
got some stuff
reality
wrong,
is well, you did? Is
No,
it?
I'm sure I got something.
I mean, the thing that surprised me the most is how Samsung in this event yesterday at Barclays Center in Brooklyn here didn't actually go into any tech details whatsoever.
True.
Like no specs, except for the 45-watt charging. They mentioned that is the only number I saw on the screen that I noticed.
So many things not mentioned. I mean, outside the Note family, they didn't mention the Fold at all, of course. They didn't mention other stuff. I sort of expected that as a one more thing.
I kind of expected DJ Code to do a DJ set. Fold. Like, that would be awesome.
I was expecting maybe a one last thing, like, hey, by the way, this will be out in September again. It's new and improved. You'll be able to buy it. But whatever. That's fine. But you're right. There wasn't... Bixby was not mentioned once. Once again, the word Android was not mentioned once. You know, some of these things have become the new normal.
Bixby was mentioned a lot in that little preview roll at the beginning before the event.
Or the
like
pre-show.
The ads, right? Like basically that ransom
Hey,
ad.
Bixby,
And
how much will this Uber cost?
And it was like, I felt like we were watching a Google Assistant commercial. I'm like, why are you trying to replicate this functionality?
Very, very, very true. Because look, I think people get a little irritated with me and with us actually when we say like, hey, Bixby is not very good. We don't like using it. But look, I'll say this: Bixby has great routines that you can program that make it more useful than Google Assistant for controlling system functions of the phone. And I get that. My objection has always just been, well, why do we have this button on here that we're not allowed to do anything else with? And the Note 10 fixes that.
But it's so weird that there's no Bixby button, but then the controls are on the left side.
Yeah.
Like, I'm fine with that. Like I will adjust, but I was like, is this the only phone that I think definitely the only Samsung phone ever, and one of the few phones out there that has the power and the volume and nothing on the right. They're both on the left and nothing on the right.
Yeah.
Normally there's something on the right.
Right. And do you think that that's an indication that these rumors we heard were true? That in the last minute they had to abandon the plan to use capacitive buttons? They had to add these?
At this point, it's such a big design change that they could put the freaking buttons anywhere. They're Samsung. They can retool very quickly.
Well, what if they had the physical buttons on the left side
as a backup
originally?
Oh, yeah.
And on the right side, we'll see
them,
jerry-rig everything. He'll tear it down and see, look, there's a capacitive sensor inside it right here where a sensor would have gone. Exactly.
Interesting. I mean, look, let's recap a little bit. So the big news this year is that there are, I'm going to say the things that stand out for me. There are two Notes. There's a smaller one, which I think is really interesting because we've had this trend of phones getting bigger and bigger, and you can only go so big. I mean, I cannot wrap my head around, I mean, in my hand it's fine, but looking on paper at the specs, 6.8-inch of display on the big Note.
On the big one, yeah.
I mean, is that the biggest screen of any phone that's like a mainstream phone? Like, we've seen some phones with like weird phones that had like 7 inches or something, but...
Right, but from a mainstream OEM that ships to most countries on the planet,
this is
certainly the biggest.
It's been 6.7 up to here, but not 6.8. And the 9 was 6.7, wasn't it?
I don't remember.
6.65, it was really high.
Something up there, it was up there.
But there was always bezel, and this thing has so little bezel.
That's the thing.
That it doesn't feel bigger than a Note. Now, you've been using the Note 9 for a while now.
I have. I moved back into it like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think this is very daring of you.
Well, you know what's crazy is I actually loved it. I came from the Xperia 1 review device into the Note 9.
Which I'm using right now, by the way.
Right, and the minute I moved into the Note 9, it felt like I was moving into a bigger house because my thumbs had all this extra space on the sides to go on the keyboard.
It's the keyboard on the Xperia 1 that I'm always like, what?
Yeah,
what?
like,
I feel like I'm
cramped.
using... what is it? The Xperia Z2 Compact or something?
Yeah, exactly. But so the Note 9 felt like this big clunker, and then you hold the Note 10, and it reminds me of the Mi Mix the Xiaomi Mi Mix
The original.
1, the original,
Yeah.
where you have this sort of slightly more pronounced chin on the bottom, but the screen goes all the way up to the top corners. I don't care about the hole punch. I think it's fine. It's
fine.
nice. It's center mounted. That's cool.
But the smaller note is interesting because I think that shows how there's no longer this binary star of the S10 and the Note 10. I mean, it's still there in branding, but I think it used to be you wanted the bigger phone, you had to get the Note.
Right.
And now, I mean, it's still true. If you're on a 6.8-inch display, you want to get the Note. But the S10 5G is almost that big, right?
Yeah, the S10 5G is huge. I don't know the exact dimensions, but one thing that's confusing, and you're right, it's getting a little weird between these two brands, is I saw an awful lot of frustration in the comments and in the replies to my content
About the branding?
About the fact that the Note has lost that crown of device that pushes everything forward. Samsung in
Lack
the briefing,
of headphone jack. That's the big one for me.
Man,
it's always been the kitchen sink, right?
Right, exactly.
And now it's not. It's a kitchen sink minus a socket or a sprout.
If you look at the smaller one, it lacks micro SD.
Right. The small one actually has. We should talk about the small one in a second. Spec wise, it has I think a lot of compromises that add up to be. I think bigger than the sum of their parts. When you look at them individually, you're like, oh, it's fine. And at the end, you're like, holy crap, I'm getting quite a bit of a lesser phone. Yep. And at that point, why bother buy a Galaxy S10 Plus or something?
Well, exactly. I was going to come back to that headphone jack. Because there's a notable way the S line exceeds the Note this year.
It's the display resolution.
Yes, but I was going to say the terabyte option on the S10.
Oh, right. You're right. I was surprised not to see a terabyte option
doesn't exist on the Note, which, is like, look, I'm sure Samsung has the user data, the sales data to say, like, look, no one wanted to pay for this terabyte phone, so we're not going to make another one.
They probably didn't sell any.
But you should have, in my view, put that feature in the Note. Don't put it in the S10 because the Note is for those users who will use a terabyte of storage shooting, 4K 60 video or whatever. So like it's confusing to me, the sacrifices the company chose to make. But I tell you, that headphone jack, personally, I don't care about it. But if you're pitching this phone to creators, removing a 3.5mm headphone jack is not the way to go.
Just for the lav mic.
For a lav mic.
Just for the lav mic.
Or even a selfie stick, the old selfie sticks where you have the button activated by the plug-in wire. Yeah. And I mean, what's the counter argument to that? Well, Bluetooth is good enough. All right, it's not for video editing.
Not for it adds lag when you have a microphone plugged in. And that's okay when you listen with headphones, especially when you're watching video. Like I was blown away actually. I have the new Sony WF-1000X-M3.
God, they know how to name a product, don't they?
Yeah. Oh my God, they're earbuds. The earbud ones. Yes. I have those.
Yeah.
And in case you're wondering, audience listening, why I haven't done a video on these. It's a long story. I'm getting a second unit because cosmetically the one I have is not right out of the factory. Huh. It works perfectly, but it doesn't look good enough to take photos. So I've requested another one and they're out. So until they send me one that I can take a video of, I will not mention much about. But I'm bringing it up because it's the first time I've used on a trip. Like I've used them around town and stuff with music and they're fine. Yeah. But first time I tried to watch video and the sync delay. Like my big can, the WH-1000
1000XM3s.
Sony, I hate you. The WH-1000XM3s, the better, they're honestly better. They're $100 more.
Just go like Annabungos, call them the Mark IIIs.
Yeah, the Mark III headphones versus the Mark III wireless earbuds are better in every way, but the lag is much less actually.
Much less on the big
video
cans.
When you watch video on Bluetooth
with the headphones, not the buds.
But the buds
have worse lag.
It's worse lag, and I think it's because it's having to I don't think it's one of those that doesn't use a relay, so it's actually too connected to your phone directly.
Yeah, each earbud has a connection.
But I think that is the processing and everything. It doesn't have quite the oomph to do it.
And this is what we talk about. Like I get it. I don't need to edit video on my phone now, so I'm okay with it. But look, they specifically said, Samsung, 4 times in the brief, like, this phone is for the people who've always bought the Note, and it's for creators.
So
and
speaking
you can't
of
take
that,
off the headphone jack.
lav mics, we all use them. Like when you watch my videos on my channel, which are not even 20% of the quality of Michael's.
Oh, stop.
You do know that I still use a lav mic.
Yes.
I actually use the same mic, the mic you introduced me to that we used on the Mirai video together, which is a Rode lav mic.
Russell Holly.
And I use the Rode lav mic, and I use it on my Pixel primarily as my recorder because the Pixel has really good stabilization.
Yes.
And I don't need like 4K. And it does a decent job at 1080p. And actually, this does a very decent job at quick focus, close up, which for me is important.
Yes.
And good job at low light, too. So I can do low light video with good focus, and I can use the lav mic. But I have to use an adapter because there's no headphone jack on the Pixel. And here's what I've discovered in my testing. I have all these adapters, including some really high-end ones, and some like in-the-box ones. They all sound different with a lav mic.
Really?
Yeah, because different preamps and DACs. Oh, ADCs in this case, the other way around, analog to digital. And it's amazing to me. Actually, I found that the Essential Phone dongle, that Essential Phone, if anything came out of the Essential Phone, it's one of the best audio dongles.
Right.
The Essential Phone dongle is actually my favorite for recording because it is louder than average in terms of microphone input, like more sensitivity, and it just sounds clean. The Pixel one is bad, no matter which version you use.
Right.
The Razer one, which you think would be a really good one, is actually not that good on the microphone side. It's good for playback.
Okay.
And then I've got other few that like generic ones, like the Xiaomi ones or whatever, and they're not that great. Or Huawei is the one as well. And
you won't have a new one to test thanks to this launch because there's no dongle in the box with the Note 10.
But there's USB-C wireless.
AKG tuned, wired USB-C.
So, I'm trying to adopt the USB-C audio way because a lot of my phones don't have headphone jacks anymore. And so I now pack in my bag, along all my other stuff, a pair of Bullets USB-C from OnePlus, which I think are the best $20 sounding earbuds on the market today.
I've got to try them.
By far the best of the $20. Like, forget wired or wireless, doesn't matter. They are sounding really great. And so I pack them in there, because not all my phones, and when I have to take calls, what I've noticed is if I use a dongle with any kind of earbuds with an inline microphone, I find that there's too many points of contacts like that could go bad, like corrosion and stuff. Yeah. So sometimes I'll plug in a dongle to my Pixel and they can't hear me, or I can't hear them, and I'm like, that's because there's some extra, like all these contacts in the, it's a nightmare.
Multiple points of failure.
So now what I do is I said USB-C solves that. So I got the Bullets USB-C in my bag, and guess what? The other day I was like, I want to quickly edit something on my MacBook, and I have one USB-C port and one headphone jack, right? Mm-hmm. So I can do one of two things on the go. I can bring out my big Sony noise reduction cans and turn off the noise reduction, use the wired 3.5 millimeter cable, which I have with me, which is like opening the box, fiddling, plugging it. Process. Or I can go, USB Type-C Bullets and plug them on the side of my MacBook, and it works. But here's the thing: I can't charge my MacBook.
Because you only have one USB port on this thing.
Yeah.
Sad. Yeah.
So the USB-C world that you and I've been living in forever is kind of falling apart very quickly.
It never came together.
Anyway, we're diverging. But the Note 10. So the Note 10. Let's talk the specs. Okay, let's go to the top. 6.8 and 6.3 inches, Quad HD and 1080p. So this is the first compromise. The small one has a 1080p display. Think about this. The only other phone in the flagship lineup of Samsung that has a 1080p display right now is the 10e. Yeah. The S10e.
Yes.
And it's a great, for the size, it's a perfect display.
It's a fine panel. At
6.3 though, I'm like...
Again, on the Note, it's surprising to see that kind of compromise. I will say this, last night, many people were asking me on Twitter to look at them with my eyes when we were at the after...
Look at it with your eyes, not with your ears?
Not with my ears. Just like look at it and tell me if you notice a difference. I crank up the resolution to max on the Plus. I put it next to the regular Note 10.
It's night and day.
No, I can't tell the difference.
See?
But
I don't have good enough eyes.
But see, this is why I really like people, smart people on the internet. Because somebody smarter than me came back and replied in behind me. It's like, you might not be able to see a difference on the launcher screen or on the icon or labels, But if you're watching a video, high resolution video with a starry sky, say, stuff like that, like that's where you'll start to see the difference. I'm like, okay, I didn't have time to test that, but in any case, I don't think it's a compromise Samsung should have made on the Note. I think the smaller one is substantially watering down the Note legacy.
If it was done at 5.8 or 6.0, I'd be like, that's okay. I mean, look, I have a P30 Pro, which is one of my favorite phones still to this day.
Right.
And it's going to get a lot of use in the next week.
Right.
And I love it. And I'm just like, it's 1080p and I'm fine. And I came from a Mate 20 Pro that was Quad HD. So for me, my eyes are not good enough. It doesn't matter. But I understand, like, you're paying $950 here for this small Note. And you're getting 1080p display. So the big Note is definitely the better deal in that sense because it's only. It's $150 more, right?
Correct.
And $150 more for, okay, let's go through the things it has better. It has micro SD storage, which the small Note doesn't have.
A lot more base storage option available too.
It's got up to 512. It has 12 gigs of RAM by default, like no matter which version you buy.
Right.
It has a Quad HD display. Where are you going over that? It has a time-of-flight sensor on the camera system, which the smaller one lacks.
Yes. It also has the 45-watt charging available.
Right. So it can do up to 45, whereas the Note 10 regular can only do up to 25. Correct. Which in both cases is better than the S10, right? The S10 does what?
Yeah, because the S10 is still stuck on its adaptive fast charging, quick charge 2.0, 18 or 15,
So that's big news, and it's PD compliant, so that means that my little Anchor, whatever, the tiny little one that
gallium nitride, the Atom.
Folks, let's tell you a little secret. Since I have Michael here, and all us journalists have the same gear, a lot of it.
A lot of us do,
so,
it's
and it's not because necessarily they give it to us. Sometimes they give it to us and we go like, oh, this is cool. And we tell each other and everybody gets one because it's cool.
Right.
But sometimes it's completely reversed. One of us buys it, we're like frustrated, we're at Best Buy, we need this thing, we go in, we buy it, and then it spreads between us, right? And then the PR people pay attention and go, oh crap. And then they like mass drop. Like let's send everyone. And this is what happened with my Anchor. Like I think it was Adobe or somebody else's Anchor charger, PD, the little tiny PD charger, 30 watt, whatever it is.
30 watt gallium nitride, right?
I know, it's like 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch or something. It's tiny.
And it kicks out 30 watts.
And I saw that and I was like, PR folks at Anchor, hook me up, please. And they're like, of course. And
you're right, because I was talking to Anchor already to send me a battery for that island battery test for the sinking island.
I'll link to the video.
And I was like, please send me one of those because I want to try and throw it into the video. And I didn't throw it in the video, but now I use it. So I need to cover it at some point. Anyway. So PD is good. Like I like how more and more devices are really becoming truly PD compliant. None of this quick charge BS, right? It's just... Well, and the battery size, I think, is the last thing. On the Note 10 Plus to 10, it's 4,300
versus 37.
Versus 30, I thought 35.
No, you're right. It might be 30. I don't know.
Whatever the case.
Whatever it is.
33. Whatever the case,
it's definitely
the Note 10 Plus
more than 33.
The Note 10 Plus is absolutely the better phone.
What other differences are there?
That's it. I think that's the bulk of it.
And both don't have a headphone jack.
Correct.
And honestly, I love the industrial design. I'm not as much of a fan, honestly. I mean, look, punch hole screens don't bother me, but I do prefer it in the corner somehow. I think it's because it's just kind of like, it's very nice and symmetric here, but it's still kind of in your face, whereas in the corner you can kind of hide it.
Oh, I like it. You know what it reminds me of? You said it before.
What?
It's like they took an essential phone and inflated it.
Yeah, actually, the closest industrial design-wise that's a modern phone that you can get today, because the Essential is a bit old, is the P30 Pro.
Yeah.
P30 Pro specifically, because it has that flat top and bottom. I love that combination of angles and roundness. Yeah. So it's got that round edges, the waterfall screen. It's got the, like, as if somebody laser cut the top and bottom. Like you can almost slice cheese with the edges.
Yeah, it's like an old Sony.
I love it.
And also, I didn't get a wish though. I will say this.
You had a wish list. Yeah,
I did.
Your video is definitely going to get linked.
Thank you. Right. I wanted to go back to the days when the Note was a leather-backed phone.
Oh, me
or
too.
Or a fake leather-backed phone.
At least have a case or something.
I know. Because look, that glass is beautiful, and we should talk about the Aura Glow.
God,
but
so good.
You hold the Note 9 for more than 10 seconds, and because it's a glass phone in the summertime, you go out from the AC into the heat, all that humidity condenses onto the phone. Suddenly, it's the grossest thing you could ever touch. It's
actually the worst of any glass phone I've ever tried.
What, the Note 9?
The Note 10.
Oh, the Note 10. Oh, why?
I'm amazed because I was at the last night. So you got a pre-brief, but I didn't. So I did a hands-on video on photos last night.
Yeah.
You'll see my photos on Instagram, and I'll link the video in the show description. But basically, the guy who was in charge, I got a room to myself with the 4 phones. I only used 2 because didn't want to spend forever.
Yeah.
And he wiped them and cleaned them, and he handed them to me like right by the edges, like he totally. I was so appreciative of him.
Yeah.
And I literally like held the back, like this by the edges with the front facing me, and showed the thing on video, and I flipped it over, and
You were already.
I was already
factory,
just from like the
incidental contact with your finger roots, right? Yeah. Finger roots. Oh man.
And I'm like, and the colors are incredible. That aura glow is like,
okay.
That's the one that you'll see if you're watching or listening right now, and you watch the podcast photo. There'll be the 2 notes, and the small one is the glow, the aura glow.
Let's talk about that
impossible
real quick.
to photograph, by the way.
Oh, but no, but it is possible.
Well, no, it is because
you photograph it, and it's like
I know.
It's like it doesn't seem possible.
I had spotlights.
Oh, what a start!
And it was a pain.
But I'll tell you what, you remember that render that leaked a few weeks back? Everyone will remember this. Maybe it was it was the first official render that leaked showing the back of the Note 10 Plus.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like, it was purple and blue like a Huawei P30 Pro looks. And I was like, ugh, this is, and I think I tweeted something like, it's weird to see Samsung taking design cues from Huawei. And look, I'll tell you this, you see it in person and it's totally something different.
Yeah.
It is, in terms of color, in terms of the texture under the glass, it looks like there are some laser straight lines in there that
it depends
really
on the color too. Like the bluish one that I had. So I had the big one in blue and the small one in amber glow, which is like
Aura Glow. Yeah.
Aura Glow. Sorry, amber is
because it is amber.
Huawei. It's actually Huawei's brand. Anyway, sorry. So the Aura Glow, I think the best way to describe it is it's gold. And then it's rainbow colors under the gold, right? Essentially.
You know what? It's like a solar panel on the Hubble telescope.
Correct.
Like it's like they sliced up solar panels and made a phone.
It's made of solar panels.
Yeah.
But that doesn't charge a phone.
But it doesn't charge.
The blue one is more traditional Galaxy Note blue, but it is interesting because as those horrible lighting in that room. First of all, it was very dark in that room, but the little bit of light was really spotty.
Yeah.
So I couldn't find an angle where there wasn't a reflection.
Right.
That's what I tried, and I gave up, and I just took some photos. But you'll see on one of the photos, you'll see that there's a pattern reflected from the light that's little squares.
Really?
Yeah. So I think the blue one has some sort of etching underneath of tiny little rectangles.
Pattern. Yeah.
And it just either that or it's just. Maybe there were LED squares in the spotlights reflecting, and to my naked eye, it looked like a white round dot, but the reflection came out as squares.
We'll watch your video for a freeze frame it and see if I can capture it.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I need to edit the video still. By the time you listen to this, the video will be edited. But anyway, so my takeaway is I love the industrial design.
Yes.
The specs are exactly what I expected. I'm bummed by the camera. I was hoping to see something. So, okay, the camera is the same as the S10 Plus and S10. However, on both phones, the Note 10, Note 10 Plus, but they've improved the f-stop on the telephoto from 2.4 to 2.1, or 2.2 to 2.1.
And also, I believe you're right. The first time, I think it was 2.4 to 2.1.
2.4 to 2.1.
I think. But the thing that stuck with me was, again, going back to this creator-focused thing, they're like, well, we made the video stabilization even better, not by changing the hardware, but by increasing the rate at which the system samples data from the gyro, from the phone's gyro.
Hey, that might work. I mean, look, the reality is computational. The more compute you can throw at things, the better things get.
Yeah. So
in some ways, I'm not saying we should return to non-OIS devices. Clearly, there was a period of that. Like we went OIS with no compute assist to no OIS compute assist. Early Pixels,
right?
Even Nexus 6P and Nexus 5X were pretty damn good. And then we went back up to the two combined.
And we're blended.
And it took, for example, OnePlus a long time to combine the two. Like you saw, the early combiners were LG, Samsung, Apple, and Huawei.
Uh-huh.
But then others finally stepped in, like the OnePlus 6 and OnePlus 7, and their different variants.
And it's the same. So it's almost the same physically reported over from the S10 camera wise. And I'm pleased to see the wide angle. I'm pleased to see the. I wish the telephoto was like a 3x. I mean, there are things you want to change.
So the telephoto, I wanted a better telephoto. I'm happy for the faster f-stop on the telephoto. That might make a bit of a difference. The other thing I was expecting is there was this rumor of a 3-step aperture, and I know like that doesn't really matter that much, but I did some testing when the dual aperture first came out with the S9. And I found that if you set it to manual and force it to f of 1.5, and take a portrait in good light,
Mm-hmm.
it's better than the fake portrait mode.
Really?
Like way better.
Really?
Like way better. And the reason for that, and even in low light, because you have a much faster aperture and you have real bokeh, like it's just not fake.
Yeah.
The problem is that it's actually a pretty close, so you have to like aim for their cheeks for focus.
Yes.
You might have to manually focus because their nose will be out and their ears will be out.
Yeah,
But
totally.
it still gives you that really cool portrait vibe. And people don't talk about that, right? They use the portrait mode because they think they can't do it with the lens. And this is what's interesting to me. So having 3 steps for creative purposes might be interesting. And there was that rumor.
But we don't have that.
We don't
it
have
doesn't
that.
have that, right?
And I want to preface this by saying to the listeners here that while I'm at Burning Man later this month, I've pre-recorded some shows for y'all.
Ooh, nice.
And that's what I do every year. The secret's out now. In the past, I've managed to like hide that, but it's impossible because the news cycle, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what I do is I do kind of special shows. I've got Steve Litchfield coming on for a camera special next week. And we're gonna talk about the Note 10, but it was the Note 10 3 weeks ago. So we actually weren't sure, and we'll mention it in the show that we weren't sure what's coming with the Note 10. But then I've got another show after that with Roberto Baldwin of Engadget covering EVs. So it's an EV special.
Oh, excellent.
So don't tune out for the EV stuff, folks. You know, 'cause I know some of you don't like it, but please hang tight. There'll be some phone news in there, I'm sure.
Maybe we can talk about that Jaguar I-Pace.
Yeah, well, I should have you on for that because you reviewed that. Yeah.
Jaguar.
So anyway, the Note 10 for me is what I expected. The camera, I would have expected a little more. Specs is pretty much what I wanted.
You want to talk about the S Pen at all?
Oh yeah, so that's obviously the big differentiator, and I always forget about it until I pull it out. I'm like, oh, this thing has stylus.
Tons of stuff.
So the thing about the S Pen this year is that it's like what is it? Like Harry Potter pen?
It's a magic wand. Yeah. They keep adding more features to the pen, which I liked last year.
It's basically a Wii controller.
Yeah. So look, when they did this with the Note 9, I was like, cool. You can push the button when it's out of the silo and it'll take photos. Yeah. You can sort of control a couple things with that, and you can turn pages in a presentation. That was marginally useful stuff. This year, I feel like Samsung has gone back to its Galaxy S4 days. Where it's like, well, this we don't know if any of these features will be useful, but we'll put them in here and we'll give you an SDK so maybe you have a better idea. You can hold the button down and like swipe through photos in a gallery.
I mean, your video is like watch Michael's video because it's almost hilarious because it's completely gimmicky.
It's so gimmicky.
It feels like that G8 with the hand gestures.
Oh, it does. It reminded me.
But
of
it's
that.
so laggy and so inaccurate. Like I saw Sherilyn's video on Engadget last night too. I was catching up on the news and like seeing her doing it. It's just like half the time it works, half the time it doesn't work.
Absolutely, and then it reads the wrong direction sometimes because you don't know. You can't really tell what you're doing with your hand.
I don't want to knock it. I'm only knocking it a bit because it doesn't seem to work that well. I think they could have made it work, and then even if it's gimmicky at that point, it works. But it doesn't even work that well.
Even if it works 100% well, I just don't. Criticize me for a failure of imagination, Michael, if you want.
You're a creator. Aren't you going to use your S Pen with your Note in portrait mode when you do your Instagram videos to control the camera?
That's what they had somebody do at that criminally boring event, by the way.
Oh my God.
That's what they had someone. It was a great idea, though. They had a creator out in the hallway. She was an Instagrammer or whatever, and she had her Note 9, Note 10 set up on a tripod, was standing there getting ready to do a stand-up, pushed the button on the S Pen, started recording. And did double-clicked it to flip it around so she could show, these are useful things. It's just that the gyro feature specifically, the features the gyro enables on the S Pen, they are not useful.
They're not.
Yet. Hopefully third-party developers will come out of the woodwork, but who knows?
And it seems like so incremental to me. Like, why, when you added Bluetooth last year, it's so cheap to add a gyro and a accelerometer in 2019 or 18 last year.
Right.
Like, why didn't you do it all in one shot? And then every generation has a pen that doesn't work with the next generation. I mean, the tip does.
Right.
But it's like...
And then you've got these long-standing complaints of mine, which I didn't mention in the video.
Oh, you have complaints, Michael?
Seeing weird, right? Huh. But here's the thing. I love the Note, which I've been using it on and off since the Note 2 because of the field we're in.
Yeah.
So I want to see some things fixed that haven't been fixed in ages. Like, for example, sometimes you can hover over a border at the bottom of a screen to scroll like the Twitter feed. Mm-hmm. And sometimes in other apps like I think Facebook or something, you can't. Sometimes you can hover and get a preview pop-up of what that link is going to take you to. Sometimes you can't. like I want system level consistency, and I understand that some of this is an Android thing.
Yeah, and that's exactly the problem that Samsung's faced since day one. Even in the early days, before the Note, original Note, like even with the S series, they introduced all these features that you needed as a developer to enable for that phone.
Right.
And who's going to do that? I mean, Samsung's a big player, but like if you ask me as a former developer, would I spend the money to enable my app to use the one feature of the Note? It's not going to be high on my priority list, especially when I don't know if it's going to work on next year's Note.
Yeah.
Like, why would I even bother?
Right.
I mean, think about it. If you supported the features on last year's Note 9, who knows if from an SDK point of view, it's even compatible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. I'm not a developer right now, so I haven't looked. But, I mean, it's that kind of stuff that until, and this is the thing, it's like the rumors, and maybe we should segue to that. It's the rumors of the Pixel 4, last week's rumor, which was the time of flight Face ID camera, right?
Yes.
Until it gets baked into Android by Google, it doesn't really matter. Like, I hate to say this, and this is kind of why we can talk about my Pixel problems. But I'm trying to think about wrapping up anything on the Note 10. Anything outstanding for you that we should talk about before we move on?
No, I think it's been interesting for me to watch the sentiment. I mean, I think so many of the hardcore users, look, when a regular phone launches, and the geeks, and I say this with love, the geeks, the fellow geeks in my comments complain, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Typically, the phone is not targeted at them.
No.
The Note has always been aimed at those people. And to see so many of those people either disenchanted or outright full of rage, it's weird. I would be interested to see the sales numbers, which they will never share, but I would not be surprised if the Note 10 did not do terribly well with that segment. I think the smaller one will do well. I think people who want a smaller phone and the S Pen, that is a market that's been underserved.
Other than the headphone jack, from an industrial design point of view and sleekness point of view, if you can live with 1080p and you don't need the headphone jack, I'd pick a Note 10 over an S10 or S10 Plus.
I would too. We just have to see about the battery life.
Yeah.
But I always prefer the Note because I really love that S Pen. Even though it has a gimmick I'll never use now, it's fine. I love it for all the other stuff, like signing my lease.
Yeah,
Which
it's
I
so
do
nice.
every year.
Yeah, I know. So I mean, the reality is like the sentiments have been interesting. Like of course, there's the usual crankiness out there by some people. But, I feel like this year, I was hoping 2019 would shape up to be a really interesting smartphone year. And in some ways it has. Like, you and I were talking about the Mi 9T when you walked into the room here earlier.
Yes.
It's actually my backup audio recorder right now on this podcast. And it's a phenomenal phone for $350. It's honestly the best Xiaomi phone I've ever used, short of the Poco phone, which I think prior to that was it's also Xiaomi, but it's Poco.
Right.
And of course, I don't have a a Redmi K20 Pro, which is a sister product with an 855, and I hear that's even better for $50 more, $400. $400.
$400.
For triple camera, Snapdragon 855, pop-up camera, big battery too, 4,000 milliamp hour, like
almost a third the price of the Note.
And so
Note Plus.
My point is that there's some things about this year that are interesting. The availability of phones in the $300 to $400 range that are really impressive.
Yes.
And the processing power of chips like the 855 and the pop-up cameras and the under-display cameras that are coming and the hole punch. It seems like hole punch has lasted 2 months.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's like, there, but Samsung's one of the few still using it, really. Like, everybody else has moved on to pop-up or something.
Yeah, and I think that, just to get right back on the speculation train for two stops here, I do feel like maybe Samsung didn't feel the need to be as ambitious with the Note this year, because I think at the beginning of this year the plan was, well, the Fold is going to be our new high-end ambitious phone, and that's where all the power users are going to go who have $2,000 or whatever.
And I was going to go there by saying that I think that the reason things feel a little boring, especially because everybody's pushing out, all the big known players pushing out $1,000 phones that are kind of a slightly improved version of last year, and there's this fatigue of price, the fatigue of, do I need to update this year? My phone's perfectly fine because I've got a Note 8 and it's still perfectly fine.
Right.
And et cetera. And I feel the pain. I want to say I feel the pain, but I still think that the excitement for me is that mid-range tier that's gotten really exciting from that $350 Xiaomi Mi 9T all the way to the OnePlus 7 Pro at $679. That price bracket right now is where they're duking it out.
Yes.
And you can get everything from real crap to like, I mean, crap hardware, crap software, to a mix of crap software and good hardware, to good hardware and good software. And I don't want to say the Mi 9T has crap software. It is what it is. I don't like the skin that Xiaomi puts on their phones. I certainly would much rather have a Huawei skin these days. But then it doesn't get in the way of the Mi 9T somehow. Like, I know it's not going to get the updates as fast, and that bothers me, but I'm surprised how quickly I've adapted, and it's not getting in my way. And so, of course, if you want pure Android and a similar hardware, you're just going to buy a OnePlus 7 Pro and call it a day.
Or a Pixel 3a.
Or
don't
Pixel
forget that.
3a. Oh my God, the Pixel 3a. Yeah, such a great little phone.
Love recommending that thing.
Oh,
still.
it's so good. Every time I go back to it, I'm like, yeah, specs don't matter. This thing just clicks and clicks. Like, it's amazing. But at the same time, it does matter, because when you start multitasking heavily and doing stuff, the 4 gigs and this, you can see the apps are slow to start, and like
just like the Pixel 3.
Yeah, well, of course,
Yeah.
which is but the Pixel 3 is let's talk about
Yeah,
that.
so
I don't know. I have a problem.
Yeah.
I think I always said, I've said it on the show many times, I say Stockholm syndrome for me, the Pixel at this point. It's like I'm kind of committed myself to using a Pixel as my daily every year because I'm lazy and I don't want to switch phones all the time.
Well.
And I switch phones for my review phones, but I don't put all the apps on my review phones. I don't put it's too much work to switch everything.
It's also because you
How do you do it? I mean, do you switch everything over to your review phones?
Yeah. Well, I use Google Voice to manage multiple numbers, right?
That helps.
And every account is signed on to both phones. The only app that gives me trouble are, the authentication apps are a little annoying. And then there's stupid WhatsApp.
The WhatsApp.
That people keep insisting on using. And
why?
Like, good example right now. Left my Note 9 in a bar last night. What do you know? Michael Josh has it, or David Kogan has it. Somebody has it.
And then you can't get your WhatsApp.
My WhatsApp messages because it's stuck on a single phone, like it's AOL Instant Messenger on my Packard Bell, and it's 1997.
No, I know.
Stop.
And
this.
It's not the only app. A lot of the messaging apps are like that.
And I think
Duo is like that. I mean, I don't use it. But
Duo is
yeah.
like that. And it's an architectural thing. I get it. And like people are willing to make that convenient sacrifice because it's encrypted and whatever.
This is a first world problem, journalist reviewer problem.
It totally is.
But at the same time, it's there. It's real. And so for me, look, I have a problem. I have a problem with the Pixels because I'm always like, oh, but you get the updates and it's Google's pure experience and it's their vision and la 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 and
right.
rah rah rah, and I'm excited. And then I'm like, more 4 gigs of RAM and all the other stuff. Is this your 3A that you're holding?
No, this is my 3 that I'm holding.
Oh, 3.
And I use this, but I can't get off of it because of the camera.
Exactly. So I have I feel like I have some sort of problem that I need to deal with, and it's not getting better with the rumors of the Pixel 4.
I was going to say, you want to talk about the Pixel 4?
So the Pixel 4, okay, we were talking about how when Android adopts the technology, it finally makes it real. And Google, I should say, and their version of Android in their release of the Pixel. And I'll give you an example of that. It's going to be 2 years, more than 2 years this summer that Apple introduced Face ID on a iPhone 10.
Sure, yeah.
And the iPhone 10, immediate, because they're vertically integrated, their Face ID was secure and 3-dimensional and very accurate and very reliable and replaces the fingerprint reader, so allows payments and serious security.
Yeah.
Since then, we've all been jonesing in the Android world for an equivalent. And we haven't had that.
Speak for yourself.
It's been terrible. Well, okay, what I'm saying is that, just assume for a second that that Face ID is the way to go.
Okay.
And that fingerprint readers are going away, right? If you have Android right now, it's a mess, right? Like, you have 2-dimensional Face ID using the front-facing camera, fails in low light, is not very secure, is not very accurate.
Right.
Okay, then you have 3-dimensional Face ID, Oppo Find X, Mate 20 Pro, some other Chinese phones we've never heard of that actually use a
depth map and a flood illuminator.
Yeah. They have all the proper tech. Can you use it for payment? No. So get this. You use your phone. If you unlock it with one of those phones, if you unlock it with your fingerprint, you can pay you pay Google Pay. If you unlock it with your eyes, even though it's got a proper 3D scanning projector, the whole thing to get a 3D scan of your face, as soon as you tap, it says, please enter your code.
Right. And then you've got Samsung doing it, which is abandoned now, the IR.
Oh yeah, the IR.
Excuse me, the iris scan.
The iris. So my point is that the reason that is because Google hasn't officially put the support for 3D proper depth sensing face recognition as a secure element in Android.
Yeah.
And so to me, the rumors of this Pixel 4, whether it does actually have an in-display fingerprint reader or not, we know it doesn't have an external reader.
Right.
Whether it does, in addition to that, have an in-display fingerprint reader, tells me that we are finally going to get a secure way to unlock an Android phone baked into the OS with hardware support from Google on the Pixel 4 that lets me do payments with my face. For better or for worse.
Yeah, and I think having that feature is not something I object to, but when I was getting ready for this show and I was looking at the rundown and I clicked the link that, I forgot whose reporting that is, that's probably 9 to 5, is reporting that rumor that there will be no fingerprint sensor at all, that it will just be this face unlock. Well, I use an iPhone XS Max for most of my Instagram posts because Instagram is still better on iOS.
Way better.
I do not like every time I pick up that phone and Face ID. Look, it's magical when it works is not what I want to say. It's magical when you are in a certain set of circumstances that it is convenient to look at your phone.
Yes.
Man, every time I want to unlock a fingerprint sensor-enabled phone, though, it's already unlocked by the time it gets to my face because I've unlocked it in my pocket.
And that's exactly the problem. No iPhone user ever experienced that because there's never been an iPhone with a fingerprint reader in the back.
Right.
And to me, that's actually the best way to unlock a phone ever, in any way, shape, or form, is what the Pixel 3 and prior Pixels are doing. Yeah. What many other Android phones, older Android phones today are doing, which is having a totally normal capacitive sensor in the back of the phone. Because, as you said, I can reach in my pocket right now, touch that sensor, and by the time I pull it out, there's your message telling me you're in the lobby.
Exactly.
And it's even before I look at the phone.
Yeah.
And I know it's unlocked by the time. So here's what I can do when I go pay for Google Pay. I put the fingerprint on my sensor. I pull my phone out while I put the fingerprint on my sensor. Yeah. And I just tap the terminal. I don't even look at my phone when I do Google Pay.
Right. And now you will have
now
to.
I'll have
if there is not a fingerprint sensor, you will
have to.
And
Apple people don't know because they've never had that. They've always had a front fingerprint sensor and then they moved to a Face ID. Right. But that's actually what I don't like about the capacitive sensor. Even that Xiaomi Mi 9T has a capacitive in display, yeah. And it's fast, it's good, but it's in display, so you have to freaking look at the phone to position your finger, and it just defeats the whole purpose.
What's the phone that has the whole display as the fingerprint reader? Is that an Oppo or
that was
Vivo
a prototype
concept?
Oppo. Yeah, it was a concept. Vivo or Oppo.
I cannot wait until that becomes a reality, because then you won't have to look at anything. But if by then we've already abandoned fingerprint sensor in favor of this less convenient in many circumstances Face ID, I'm going to be very annoyed.
But I think Rene Ritchie and I talked about this a while back, probably on the first time he was on my podcast. And it's actually, I think the future is a hybrid future where it's not just fingerprint sensing, it's the entire body of the phone can recognize your fingers, multiple fingers.
I remember this podcast with Rene.
Yeah. Also, you have a sensor for your face.
Yes.
So it is opportunistic authentication.
Yes.
So it's not using one method; it's using multiple and it's using a statistical analysis.
Continuously.
I'm 99% sure this is Miriam.
Right.
From the thumbprint I just got on the side of the phone, the partial index print from the other hand I got on the back of the phone.
Yes.
From the one eye I got on the brief moment that I saw her face.
Right. And the analysis
and the voice.
of her voice and the analysis of her gait as she walked down the hall in the pocket.
Before she pulled out the phone.
Right. There wasn't a handover.
And I think he nailed it. That's where we're going. And until then, it's going to be this dance we have, right?
Sure.
If we have Face ID only, then we're going to have to look at the phone. If it's a back fingerprint reader, we're used to it because right now that's like the prehistoric version of that, but it's the fastest version.
It's the muscle memory.
And then we have the in-display fingerprint readers for some people. But I think it's really interesting to see where we're going to go. So that brings us to this week's Pixel 4 rumor, which is 90 hertz display.
Yes.
which is exciting. But then battery size.
What?
And I want to talk about that. Okay,
So
so
what's
90
the
hertz
rumored
display.
batteries?
I'm on board for 90 hertz display. If it's defeatable and it's there, it's nice.
Yeah.
We love it for the OnePlus 7. It's nice, it's fluid. You're used to it.
I guess. I mean, look, I think I was spoiled by the Razer phone because that 120 hertz
120,
display.
yeah.
That's
but it's
a notable
IPS,
change.
and I can't deal.
Oh, strongly agree.
Right.
But then, I get 90 hertz is
So 90 hertz is fine. But here's the problem. So the rumors are 2,800 milliamp hour battery on the small one and 37 on the big one.
If this rumor is true about the small one, I'm going to be
It's going to have
very
a 5-hour battery life.
Seriously, because this Pixel 3 that I've been using, that I use every day, I had to charge it in the Uber on the way over here. I'm going to have to charge it later. It is not, what time is it? It's not 1 o'clock in the afternoon yet.
You know.
This has a 3,000 milliamp hour battery, right?
I think so. It's bigger, yeah.
I mean, come on.
So my Pixel 3 XL,
Oh, maybe I'm wrong on that.
I can barely do a day on a busy day like yesterday. Barely.
On the XL.
I hit 50%. I turned battery saver on. Because I'm like, I mean, I have packs with me. You know, we both do, right?
Yeah, we always
But to me,
that.
I'm like, that's the point of final, like, I'm really stuck.
That's the last resort,
And I'm really
right?
last resort. Like I have 20% left or something.
Forgive me, I'm sorry. The Pixel 3 has a 2915 milliamp hour battery.
Okay, close enough.
Yeah.
The point is that it's lower, and yet it's going to have an 855 is more efficient. But like, what is Google like? So this is again, you know, I feel like I have a problem because I'm like kind of addicted to the Pixel, but at the same time I hate it, and at the same time I love it, and at the same time I feel like, oh, my captures are treating me really well. They're feeding me, but they beat me with a stick every now and then. It's okay though. It's not so bad. I'm in a nice hotel room here in Stockholm. So
on balance, it's fine.
So that's kind of where I'm at with the Pixel. And of course I want a Pixel 4 because I want to try this Face ID thing. And I want the camera goodness. But every rumor right now says it's only going to do dual camera, that the main camera would be slightly wider angle, that the other camera might be a tele, and that there's no ultra wide, and which is what all I want is give me an
all
ultra
I want
wide.
is a Pixel with an ultra wide angle camera.
And so here we are talking about a phone that's 2 years old in terms of catching up with the competition.
Seriously.
For number of cameras. You're going to say, well, it takes amazing photos.
And it does.
It does very much take amazing photos today on the Pixel 3 series, but it's in every other way crap. Like 4 gigs of RAM, bezels, Alta Kazoo, even the new renders we saw and photos and leaks we saw of this 4. Like that forehead, are you kidding me? like did you see the Note yesterday? This is where we're going. Like, where is Google in this?
Alex Doby had a great tweet storm about this where he basically summed it up by saying, Google seems to continue to think that the rules of smartphone design do not apply to it. And I don't know if that's going to serve them well.
It's so Silicon Valley. It's actually very Apple. They're trying to act like Apple, but they don't have the clout to do it. You know,
they're getting there.
They need more humility. Like, they need to be like, look, like, why not? What prevents them to talk to Xiaomi and get Xiaomi to build hardware for them?
Well, it's crazy, you know, because I
mean,
wonder.
That Mi 9T, imagine if that had a Google camera on it.
But think about Google's entire own portfolio of products they manufacture or products that they brand. Like, look at Google Home, right? Look at all the Nest line stuff now. Look at all the stuff that Google pitches directly to consumers. Has this soft, accessible aesthetic where it's like, oh, this would not be out of place in a nice, airy home that you might want to own. And the Pixel, there's nothing aggressive about the Pixel's design, and there never has been. Even down to the colors, which now you get a colored a Pixel that's not white or black. It's like you can barely tell there's any color on it at all.
I like the purple 3A I have.
Me too. But what is it? It's kind of purple.
It's lilac,
right?
yeah.
So it's, you know, I think that is an intentional decision on their part not to be like, we don't need to push our screen out to the edges because we want it to be soft.
It's very Apple. You know what I mean? It's like we don't need to because we're Google, and that's BS.
I don't know.
Do need to.
I don't know if that's coming from a position of arrogance. I think it's coming from an intentional design choice.
Yeah, but that's
and I don't like
it's an arrogant design choice.
I don't know. I don't think
it's like, look, this Google Home speaker will look great in an IKEA showcase. Like,
yeah, well, and they do.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed because I know I'm gonna get a Pixel 4 and I'm gonna love the camera.
Of course.
And I'm gonna be like, oh, my captures, they treat me so well. It's only got 6 gigs of RAM, but that's okay because the Note comes with 12 gigs in the big version by default. It's fine. I can live with 6 gigs.
Right.
Anyway, other news. Oh, couple quick things about. I don't want to expand on them, but I just want to mention them. Couple of quick things about the Galaxy Note event yesterday. There were 3 more products announced. Well, they were announced. 2 of them were announced last week, and they are the Galaxy Watch Active 2, which is basically. I don't want to expand on it because we have more things, but I feel looks and feels really nice.
It does.
It basically the rotating bezel that some old Galaxy watches have had, including my last year's Galaxy watch that I'm wearing right now, has this physically rotating bezel, which I really like. It's like
Me too. It's the best thing about it.
Jaime doesn't like it because I think he bent his, so it doesn't rotate as smoothly anymore. But he probably hit it hard on something because I've hit this hard on many things. And I don't have a single scratch on it yet, and the bezel still, every now and then the bezel gets a little gunked up, but I find that if I run it under water and rotate it really quickly and dry the watch, it's perfectly fine again. Like, the stuff gets stuck in there.
I've never had a bezel problem.
Anyway, but this one, it's a capacitive bezel. It's like, you know how the original iPod had a click wheel that was actually physically rotating?
Yes.
Like the first year.
And
then
they
they went to the capacitive.
Yes.
So this is the same thing.
And it's what we wanted them to do last year.
Yeah.
Because the number one thing about the Galaxy Watch Active first gen was that I was like, I missed that rotating bezel. It's what makes Tizen fun.
Exactly.
Easy.
And so they fixed that, and this thing's it's like when it honestly, it gives it a nice flat feel. Like it still looks like a round watch, which I really like.
Yes.
But it gives it that modern smartwatch look of that pebbly finish that we're used to from the iPhone, or sort of from the Apple Watch, from the Apple universe, from the iUniverse, that I think people kind of associate a smartwatch with. So it's the best of both worlds. You get a round watch, and you get this kind of more pebbly, like soft finish that, like, this is really clunky and manly looking, the watch that I'm wearing
Galaxy
right now.
Watch, yeah.
And so this is much more, I think, accessible for a wider audience.
Yeah, and it comes in 2 sizes too.
Correct.
Which is great.
40 and 44 millimeters.
Yeah.
And so I just want to mention that exists. I also want to mention that they launched a Galaxy Tab S6, which is a competitor to the iPad Pro or iPad Air. I'm not sure. It's too expensive. $699 or something.
I didn't even.
I didn't care.
Okay.
But what I do care about the most is the thing they surprised us with last night, which is that they launched the Galaxy Book S, which is a laptop, 13-inch laptop with a touchscreen, super light, super thin, and surprise, it runs Qualcomm's new HCX chip that is optimized for laptops.
It's a snapbook.
It's the first with the HCX.
Yeah.
Nobody else has the HCX yet. 855. 850 has been out there.
Yeah.
But the HCX is not. And so this is exciting to me because I'm a big fan of the idea behind Windows on Snapdragon, and
Me too.
The 850, I find that if you use compiled apps that are native, it actually performs really well. I have a build of Firefox and Chrome that I run on my Lenovo 850 based Snapdragon laptop, and it's actually just as good as a Core i5, honestly.
I believe it.
And so the CX now, the apparently, Don McQuarrie was on my podcast at Computex, and he kind of let it slip, not explicitly saying the name Adobe, but that the CS suite was coming to ARM. And so imagine this super light, super thin Samsung laptop with, they claim 23-hour battery life. I would say even half of that is great.
Yeah.
And imagine Premiere on that.
Oh, man.
Now, you might not render very fast at 4K, but you never know, because the benchmarks we saw at Computex basically made the HCX perform as well as an i5,
and that's
without a fan.
And that's what Qualcomm was promising last December in Hawaii when the HCX was announced.
And they optimized the chip for laptop use. This is not just a glorified mobile chip. This is a real chip.
Yes, but it has all the benefits of a mobile chip, that long battery life, in theory. We haven't tested this. This is all claimed. And then the always-on LTE connectivity.
Yeah.
So I'm eager to try it again, particularly because my first ACPC experience was just dreadful on that 835 powered Asus Nova Go, world's most boring thing.
The 850 is okay, but the HCX I think is going to bring it to life.
And this hardware from Samsung that we're talking about here looks pretty good.
I unfortunately did not get my hands on it.
I just saw it on the screen. But Android Central has a hands-on because Andrew went up to photograph it. It fails the one-handed opening test. Sad. But that's because it's like it weighs 2 pounds. Yeah, it's fine.
It's super thin, super light. Has 2 USB-C ports. Has 1 headphone jack.
Yeah.
Has a SIM slot, obviously.
That was
and it's it's a touchscreen, which is nice. A 13-inch touchscreen.
And starts at $999.
$999, which is a little pricey, but it's a premium laptop, guys. So just don't
cheaper than Galaxy Note.
Super excited that finally seeing HCX out in the wild. Coming in September too, so it's actually now, like soon.
Yeah. I want to ask for one because I want to test it.
Another little bombshell of a news item this week was Sprint plus OnePlus plus 5G in a tree making out like high school sweeties.
That's right.
But it's a threesome because there's 5G in there.
Hey.
I know. It's
Naughty.
naughty. So I don't know. I think this is exciting for. I mean, you have to understand this is going to be a very specialized OnePlus phone because you have to support CDMA legacy 2G and 3G.
Right.
You have to support LTE, 4G, GSM capable. You'll probably also have to support GSM for when you're roaming, and then you have to support 5G mid-band, sub-6,
Yeah.
for Sprint's bands.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a OnePlus 7 Pro 5G that's going to be very specific to Sprint. But it's exciting because now two carriers are carrying the OnePlus 7 Pro.
Yeah.
It's like you can walk. It's no longer Apple, Samsung to me. Like, who else is there really when you walk into a store these days? LG.
That gets you
They don't
excited, like LG? No,
right?
it's if you wanna
so
save
it's like,
money.
but I think OnePlus, people are discovering OnePlus.
I think so too, and thanks in no small part to T-Mobile's massive, aggressive push.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter that Sprint and T-Mobile are about to be the same carrier, because right now they're not. And as you say, the phone needs very specific hardware to run on Sprint's current network. So
It's going to be a little dreadful, honestly, how they're going to torture that OnePlus 7 Pro to work on Sprint.
oh yeah. Now, do you think it's going to be a 7 Pro or a 7T Pro? Like, do we know timing?
Well, we don't know timing, and that's true. We don't know. Like right now, we're assuming it's 7 Pro.
Yeah.
But you can click on that link. I don't know.
I'm just going to look because I got the news release when Sprint
Me
announced
too.
it.
I have it here.
What
I'm
do
just
they
gonna-
say?
Oh, probably.
Sprint launching 5G phone with OnePlus.
Yeah, they didn't say it was a 7 Pro.
Yeah.
So.
Check out device specifications, pricing, and exact timing will be announced soon.
So I don't think I think the 7T is going to be ready till October, November.
Yeah.
And so I don't think they would announce specs soon. Soon means September to me.
Yeah.
So that means that this might be a 7.
Yeah.
And also it makes sense. Think about it. Like you have to negotiate all the things, and they have
Right.
to build a custom version.
Right.
It's not if the 7T Pro came out, this would not come out till January at this point.
Yeah.
Like probably.
They're gonna
It has to certify it on the network. Blah blah blah.
yeah, they're gonna paint a. They're gonna swap out the guts and paint the OnePlus 7 Pro yellow, and then we're gonna
Oh,
have a
God.
dope Sprint
As long as
phone.
it's shiny, glassy
Yeah.
yellow gold. Okay. What else do we have for? Oh, so Huawei is supposed to come out with a mid-range phone that's rocking their in-house Android OS replacement. That's a big rumor that's
yes.
floating around.
Yeah, that's
How
right.
do you feel about that?
I don't know. I feel like it's a necessary step. Huawei has to do it. If I were Huawei,
Yeah.
you better
Oh,
believe
yeah.
I'd be cooking
Yeah,
up.
you have to
I'd be
do it.
accelerating that program
It's
after their
danger,
Android woes.
right?
But at the same time, this is what we saw Samsung do years ago with when the rumors
Bada.
were that ties at Bada, and then ties in
Tizen.
on handsets and stuff. And
I reviewed a Bada phone.
did you?
Feel my pain.
Oof, bada.
It was an Engadget. It was the Samsung Wave.
Really?
Yeah,
Probably
it wasn't
wasn't.
bad.
Yeah.
It,
Well, here's
it
the
wasn't
thing.
bad.
I'm sure that Huawei.
It was
can-
basically a dumb phone,
I'm-
but with smartphone specs. That's
Right.
what it felt like because there's no app ecosystem whatsoever.
There is no question that there's enough software expertise to create a phone that you're not going to hate using. The issue is the ecosystem. So
Mm-hmm.
that says to me that this is only going to be deployed in force, I think, in China. And I forgot whose reporting we had on that.
I have a bunch. This is from Digital Trends, but I think the
Yeah.
original story is from Bloomberg.
Yeah, so they're going to make a ton of them, sell them in China, where it doesn't matter that you don't have Google Play services anyway. For half
And
of
it
the
can.
stuff.
I mean, it's possible it runs Android executables. We know that you
Yeah,
can do
it has
that,
to be compatible
right?
with
So
Android. yeah.
who did BlackBerry did it with BlackBerry 10?
That's right.
Right. So I mean, we know that Sailfish does it.
Yep.
So
So it's
so
fine.
yeah,
I
maybe
just
they
don't.
should have just bought Sailfish.
I see that. I would love to.
Sailfish is
Huawei
cool.
hardware and Sailfish running on it.
That would
What
be
a
good.
cool
Yeah,
OS.
that'd be good. I'm gonna ask them when I'm there.
Too.
Huh?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay. So and we can't talk about it. It's a secret. You'll find out next week.
All right.
All right. So let's see. So that's interesting, and it's interesting they're going. Of course, it makes sense they're going mid range on that.
Yeah.
You don't want to go on your flagship at
No.
first. You want to kind of try it out. Rumors of an LG triple screen. Well, it might not be a triple screen phone. It might be a case. We don't know. It could be called a V60 if it's a phone. It could just be a case with a V50. It's weird to me that they would launch 2 V series in 1 year.
Here's the thing. It all comes from this teaser, right? This teaser
So it's
email.
LG, by the way. It's an IFA teaser for LG. You'll be at IFA, so hopefully I'll read your watch your videos and read your stories.
You're not going to be at IFA?
No, because I'm a Burning Man. You know how it is. Every year I miss
course.
I live vicariously through you guys. I'm refreshing the feeds.
I'll bring you back some currywurst.
I'm refreshing feeds at 56K out there. It's great.
So yeah, we got an email with a GIF in it that's like an animated thing, and it's it's all very cutesy. But what it ultimately ends up being is you think it's one screen, it opens up, it turns out to be 2 screens side by side, like the case for the V50.
And then there's a screen on the outside.
And then it closes again, and there's a screen on the outside in the front, but it's a tiny screen. It's like a notification screen from an old clamshell phone, from a Samsung M610. So whatever, it's exciting.
Sorry, Moto V600 here.
Yeah. Oh, indeed. Or Moto V60. Hey.
Yeah.
So you're right. It could be V60 ThinQ. It could be another case for the V50 ThinQ.
Who knows?
It'll just be interesting. It's not going to be a folding phone.
Did they ever launch that dual second screen
Not
display in the US? So I'm thinking that's what it is. It might just be like they're finally, the same case. They tested it out a bit and they're like, oh, maybe we can just add a little extra thing.
I don't know. It just makes it so big and clunky and whatever. I'm hopeful that it's cool. That's basically what I've been saying about LG stuff for like a year, right?
I mean, look, honestly, in retrospect, I gave the G8, the review it deserved on Geekspin, on Elena's publication.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, I have fond memories of using that phone.
Do you?
Yeah, strangely. I mean, forget the gimmicks. I didn't use those.
No.
But like, I felt like the camera was way more solid than people gave it credit for. Like,
and I
low light and stuff.
I heard that.
Like, every time I pull it out again, I use it again, I'm like, wait a minute. Like, you're up there with the P30s and the Pixels of the world.
Well, except you're not up there with the P30
well, no, you're
because
not.
That wide angle is such crap,
It's
and
crap.
they reduced it to 107 degrees, which makes no sense to me.
Has anyone seen the G8 Plus or S or whatever it's called?
No, I don't even.
Does that even
doesn't
exist?
Hit my radar. I don't even know.
Like, what is it with LG that doesn't send us phones? I still don't have a V50. Where's our V50s?
Well,
doesn't it exist for sale on Sprint right now?
To be honest, and I really have no data to back this up, I feel like they looked at the audience sentiment from the G8 hands-on, and then I said, well, look, the numbers are really low. Nobody cares about this to begin with. The people that do care and do watch are overwhelmingly negative. And look, I'm busy, so I might not get around to this review. I'll wait for LG to follow up because they usually do. They didn't. I don't think they're pushing that review program very hard, frankly.
No,
and
I don't blame them.
I wouldn't either.
But I pinged them about the V50. I said, send me a review in it. I'll feature it on the podcast and on the videos. But
I will give a shout. There was someone. Damn it! I can't give a shout because I can't remember who it was. Someone.
Shout out to the anonymous.
Oh my God! Someone on YouTube. I think last night. It may have been. Someone last night. I'll look it up real quick while we move on to the next thing. Someone said made a YouTube video where it was essentially like, why is no one talking about this phone? And it was the V50. Might have been.
I mean, the
Jason.
V50 seems like a V40 with 5G, and the V40 was with updated specs, and the V40 was okay.
Yeah.
But you're right. The wide. I mean,
Oh, Painfully Honest Tech. Yeah, it was, Jason, a week ago.
Okay.
LG V50 review. Why is no one talking about this phone? Haven't watched the video, but I like his stuff, so watch it.
So LG triple screen phone potentially, or case, or V60, but 2 Vs in 1 year. Oh, V50 Plus, V50S,
this
V50
is what I'm talking about.
TS triple screen.
Come on, tell nice.
Come on, I should be running marketing at LG. That wouldn't work because they would never do any of the things I want to do.
I was gonna say.
Xiaomi 108 megapixel camera phone.
Right.
Rumors. Or not rumors. They've announced the sensor.
Yeah.
They said they're going to make a phone with it. It's an ISOCELL Samsung sensor. 108. So let's divide this by 4. That's 26? 27 and a half?
Yeah.
108 divided by 4 is 54. 26. 27. 27. So the output would be 27. Let's divide that again by 2, and then we get 13.5.
13.5.
Right? Am I right?
That's correct.
13.5. So could be that it's the output's 13.5 because there's no way they're gonna let you shoot like the pixels are gonna be 0.4 microns or something.
Yeah.
And there's going to be noise central.
Oh,
and so they're going to
Especially in low light.
they're probably processing the crap out of it. And so I'm thinking output is 13.5 megapixel, it's downsampled 8 times basically.
Yeah.
And so that now instead of 4x4 pixels, you now have 8x8 pixels.
Right. And
there you go. So if an 8x8 pixels is 1.5 or 1.8 microns,
right,
then divide that by 8 and it gives you the actual size. Do a 1.8 divided by 8.
1.8 divided by 8.
And what do we get for pixel size?
That would be 0.225.
Yeah, so we're thinking like, I'm thinking is 0.3 microns is what I'm calling it now. So 0.3 times 8 is going to be 1.2, 2.4. So it might actually have an effective pixel size of 2.4 microns. That might be pretty damn good.
Which might be, yeah. Boy, that was impressive.
So sorry about all the radio noise, and we're in a hotel room and it's cleaning time.
It's getting turned over.
Yeah. So anyway, look, it's exciting to me that if they don't downsample more than 4 times, I think it's not worth it. Like nobody cares about 27 megapixel camera.
Unless you're going to blow it up, unless you're going to put it on the wall.
It's not going to be Hasselblad quality anyway. So at this point, downsampling 8 times to 13.5 megapixels, now we're talking.
Right. Yeah.
And who knows what kind of crazy zoom processing you can do with that too.
Well, true enough. And yeah, I don't know. I think that'll be... It's interesting to see somebody doing something absurd. It's kind of like 5 years ago. It's like 40 megapixels on a phone. What? But, we'll see. We'll see what's worth it.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the news. That's what we got for you guys.
Yeah.
Anything else that stands out for you in terms of like this week? I mean, it's quite the week. I feel like the big news really are the Note 10, maybe the Book S, and the Pixel 4 90 hertz battery fiasco.
Yeah.
And of course the OnePlus Sprint 5G, just simply because it's like, okay, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
For the US anyways. For
those
European listeners and lovely people in India who loves to listen to the show. Sorry, we live in this weird place where the carriers are still pulling the shots. It's a horrible place.
But it's what we've got to do with.
That's right. We have to deal with
it. Yeah, I think just to end on the Samsung thing again, it was what the Note event has done more than anything is make me really anxious again to get the Fold back. Everybody feels like the Fold is over and stuff, but it is Samsung's new show-off aspirational area, and I want to be back in that, and I want to see how that changes the way I use a phone again. That's the most excited I've been to use a phone in a long time, and I miss it dearly.
I really wish I had a chance. So what about the Mate X? What if Huawei just at IFA drops the Mate X?
I would love that, but honestly, it doesn't. After the trade war explosion thing, after Huawei was basically shut out for 4 weeks, and they're still on the entity list, and there's still no prospects of them.
But nobody seems to care now.
Right, but there's still no prospect of them selling phones in the U.S. anytime soon.
Well, there never was. I mean, the day that
but it got so much less likely.
The day that at CES they pulled the rug on. AT&T pulled the rug on Huawei. I knew it was done for years to come.
I know, like all of that together.
A regime or not, like what I'm saying. It was.
I get it, but all of that together though makes me like sad. Look. It makes me sad. It makes me also a lot less eager to cover the Mate X in a big way because it's just not going to come here.
Right.
So.
But at the same time, look, here, let's be realistic. You love the Fold. Many other people I've talked to that I trust love the Fold. I'm sure that I would have been gee-whiz banged by the Fold
100%.
If I had one.
Yeah.
I get that. Flaws or not, I'm sure they fixed the flaws enough that it's going to be fine, but it's still going to be a fragile phone when it launches.
Completely.
And it's still going to be bought by 10 people.
Yes.
Because the reality is T-Mobile doesn't carry it, and I don't blame them. They probably don't want to waste all that marketing effort they had to throw out the window.
Yes.
And AT&T hasn't said anything, but I'm pretty sure AT&T is going to pull the plug on selling that thing too. And it's going to be available through Best Buy and B&H and Samsung unlocked online and Amazon. And it's going to be super expensive, and it's probably going to have issues.
Yep.
And
almost certainly.
We're going to love it as reviewers because it is the future, and it is as you said, once you started using this thing, you're like, wow, the potential, right?
Yes.
So to me, what I'm more excited about is, and I think marketing wise, Samsung's going to shove this under the rug as much as possible.
Yeah.
Because it's Samsung,
Little
and,
press
and
release
that's
on a
how
Friday
they feel.
night.
Yeah.
It's like Galaxy
At
Fold
9
now
p.m.
available.
Yeah. Hello, you can buy it now. Best Buy will carry it in a month.
Yeah.
And then, but I'm more excited about what the Fold 2 could bring to the table.
Me too.
Especially if they persist on that idea of the screen being on the inside. Because my biggest concern with the Mate X, and the Royale that a few people reviewed. You saw Marquez reviewed it. Yeah. Jerry Rig Everything took it apart. Zach took it apart, and it was actually pretty rugged. I don't know if you saw his take apart.
No.
Like he beat the crap out of that thing, and it wouldn't die.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, that's because the thing looks like an airplane part. Like it's not. There's nothing elegant about it.
No, I know. But it's interesting to me that I would love to see what Samsung can do, and this is one of the things that Samsung is really good at. Remember the first Note? It was interesting. We weren't sure where it was going to go, and then they kept iterating, and it got good. The Galaxy phone, the Galaxy camera, completely not happen. Like they tried to iterate and it didn't work out.
Right.
And some products stick and some don't. I feel that they want to make the Fold stick, and so what's going to happen is, that Fold took 2 years or so to develop, more than that for this folding screen technology, but probably what we're seeing today is the end result of 2 years of work.
Yeah.
So if they've immediately started to working on something since then, imagine what the version 2 could be. It could be thinner, it could fold more.
Yeah.
It could have an even bigger screen with less bezels and
a larger
cameras.
screen on the outside.
The thing that I would love Samsung to do is, better, nicer screen on the outside and optimize cameras so that you only have few cameras. You don't need a camera on every screen, on every angle.
Oh, I forgot it has 5 cameras.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I like how a band of cameras like the Royale and the Mate are doing.
Right.
Something like that would make more sense to me.
But I actually liked having a camera on every surface of the Fold because really there were situations where I would want to take a selfie with it closed because I only had one hand.
Yeah.
Or if I have 2 hands, I want to take a selfie with it open. Or I would just want to take a wide shot with it open or a wide shot with it closed. All those cameras needed to be there. Yeah. Not one of them was unnecessary. But I agree, it's clumsy.
It's clumsy.
I get it.
All right, well, we should wrap up. So do you want to tell the world where they can find you on the internet, through social media and other URLs?
Yeah, it's all very easy. The Mr. Mobile. TheMrMobile. I'm everywhere. I'm most active on Facebook and, on Instagram and Twitter and, of course, YouTube. So
yeah, YouTube is your big thing.
It is.
And you're part of the Mobile Nations Empire.
Future
now.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Future Empire.
Big shout out to my friends at Android Central who covered the Note 10 wonderfully yesterday. I was standing next to, I think it was Tim Schofield yesterday at the Samsung event after the Note dropped, and he's just looking at his phone, and out of nowhere, I don't even think he was talking to me. He was like, man, Android Central had 21 articles today.
Yeah, but it does happen when you have a bunch of properties that cover it from different angles. And that's what's exciting.
Exactly.
And then, so check out Mr. Mobile. Obviously, I'll link to a couple of your videos below in the description as usual.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and you know where to find me, folks. I'm at Tankgirl on Twitter and Instagram. That's TNKGRL, like the comic book character, but drop the vowels. There is a YouTube channel, youtube.com/MiriamJoire. If you don't know how to spell my name and you're on the podcast for the first time, go to my Twitter, at Tankgirl, TNKGRL, and look for the name. And then type that out, youtube.com/MiriamJoire with spaces. And you'll get to the YouTube channel, which is kind of a digest of videos of various devices I'm having my hands on. Either unboxings or reviews, or actually hands-on like the Note 10. And then I also have rekindled my blog, tankgirl.com.
Nice.
Primarily, to be honest, as a deal blog. I come across all these deals.
Oh, sure.
And I have a bunch of referral programs with companies. And I'm thinking, where can I put this in one place where people can also see the videos and listen to the podcast, but a one-stop shop. But then at the same time, if they see the product and they like it, they can buy now.
No better place than your own domain.
So Tankgirl.com, I've had it for years. It's just always dormant for a while. So I've rekindled that. Right now, it's I'm still kind of fleshing it out. So go in there. There's a few things. You'll check it out. I'm also putting the podcast on YouTube every week now. It's a week delayed, but it's there. So if you don't want to subscribe on the RSS or through a podcast app and you don't mind waiting a few days, you can have it a few days behind on YouTube as a video. And the image is just a crop of something that's slowly moving across the screen, Ken Burns style.
Yeah.
And then I have mobiletechpodcast.com, which is the URL for the podcast. If you want to subscribe through the RSS feed, it's in that URL. But also I'm on all the platforms. So Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Overcast, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, everywhere. Everywhere. So if you're first time on the show and you want to subscribe, you have many, many options from YouTube to Spotify to old school RSS to Google, Apple, etc. And you get deals on tankgirl.com, which is great. Finally, I want to thank our sponsor, Audible. Audible.com is the sponsor of the show. They've been for a long time, and they're a pretty great platform if you love books and you, for whatever reason, cannot read them. You're a delivery driver, have your headphones on all day, and you want to be able to get into some book action. That's a great platform for it.
Absolutely.
So I suggest you check them out. We have a deal with them. Where if you join Audible, you get a first month for free, first of all, but then you get to keep the books that you get that month. So it's a pretty good deal. If you cancel, you still have them. And I would suggest you check that out. It's audibletrial.com/mobiletech is the URL. audibletrial.com/mobiletech. I'll have a link in the show notes. That way you can click on it if you don't want to type it out. If you're not already with Audible, consider checking it out. It'll support the podcast, and more importantly, you get a really great platform for books. If you're a bookworm, but maybe you can't always physically read books, there you go. And also, the big deal about it is that they have some other books read by the authors, which I really like. When you have, William Shatner reading his own book or something, You're a big Star Trek fan.
I just saw him on stage.
I know, I was going to say.
Yeah, he's got a peculiar energy. I love it.
Yeah, peculiar energy, right. So that's it, folks. Thanks, Michael, for being on the show again.
Thank you for having me.
Nth time now.
This is always so much fun.
Oh, thanks.
I'm glad we were able to do it.
We'll obviously have you back. Maybe we can talk about the EVs next time, the iPace that you just tested.
I love that. Yeah, Jaguar.
Hello,
Jaguar.
Hello.
That sounds great.
JLR. Jaguar Land Rover.
Oh, yes.
Dear.
Indeed.
All right. Well, folks, stay tuned. We'll have another show next week, obviously. And until then, cheers, everybody.
Stay mobile, my friends.
This has been the Mobile Tech Podcast with Tank Girl, proudly presented by worldpodcasts.com. You can visit us online at mobiletechpodcast.com.